Hello, I'm Mark Price. I'd like to talk to you today about faith the size of a mustard seed. There was a fellow who was taking his nephew out on a camping trip, and this nephew of his was a very bright fella. He had, I think it was 4 or 5 degrees, doctorates, just an intelligent guy. You look up intelligence in the dictionary, and it's this nephew's picture. And they're out on a camping trip. They set up everything. They get in bed, into the tent, and go to sleep. Well, in the middle of the night, they wake up, and the old man asks his nephew, "When you look up, what do you see?" And this very smart nephew says, "Well, I see the stars and know that it's connected to multiple universes, and I see the glory of God, and I see the beauty of the solar system." And he asked his uncle, he said, "What do you see?" And the uncle looks up and says, "Well, I see that someone stole our tent." See, brains aren't necessarily all that we need. Common sense, perhaps. The gospel today is from Matthew chapter 17, 14 through 20. A man came to Jesus, knelt down before him, and said, "Lord, have pity on my son, who is a lunatic and suffers severely. Often he falls into fire and often into water. I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him." Jesus said in reply, "O faithless and perverse generation, how long will I be with you? How long will I endure you? Bring the boy here to me." Jesus rebuked him, and the demon came out of him, and from that hour the boy was cured. Then the disciples approached Jesus in private and said, "Why could we not drive him out?" And he said to them, "Because of your little faith. Amen, I say to you, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you will say to this mountain, 'Move from here,' and there it will move. Nothing will be impossible for you." The gospel of the Lord. With faith, nothing is impossible. With God, nothing is impossible. What is faith? Faith is believing in something you can't see, but you have a reason to believe in it. Faith doesn't mean, and having faith doesn't mean that everything is going to go smoothly for you. It doesn't mean that everything is going to be giving you what you want. We have preachers in our world today that preach and say, "Well, you believe in God, you come to faith in my church, and you get $1 million in your bank account. You get that new job you wanted." Well, I don't personally think that Jesus died on that cross just to give us big bank accounts or the job we want. Having faith means not that we're going to avoid tough times, but that during those tough times we have reason to believe that God, the creator of all things, will be with us and sustain us throughout. Daniel and the lion's den, his faith in God did not keep him out of the lion's den, but it gave him a sense of peace knowing that God was with him in the lion's den and ultimately got him out. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, when they were in the fiery furnace, their faith in God did not keep them out of the furnace, but it again gave them that faith to have a sense of peace while going through that furnace. And Abraham was told to sacrifice his son Isaac. Takes him up to the side of the mountain and is preparing him for sacrifice to the point of tying him down on the altar to sacrifice him before God. There must have been that part of Abraham deep down that had so much faith and trust in God that either A, God was going to tell him it's okay, which ultimately God did, or maybe God, after Abraham sacrificed him, he'd bring his son back to life. Who knows? But Abraham's faith was so strong, it did not prevent him from being told to sacrifice his son, but it gave him a reason to believe that his son somehow would be all right. Why did he have reason to believe? Because God also said that the generations that will come out of you because of your faith will come out of the seed of your son Isaac. So Isaac couldn't die because ultimately the promise of God was that the generations to come would come from the seed of Isaac. So faith is believing in something we can't see, but we have a reason to believe in it. I often tell people about Campbell's soup. You go to your grocery store and you see your Campbell's soup and you say, "I want to buy Campbell's tomato soup." And you look at the labels and there's tomato soup and you pick it out to take it home. Well, is there tomato soup in there? Your answer is yes, of course. Why? You really don't know if there's tomato soup in there until you open it up and you pour it into the pan to heat it up. You don't know, because maybe Campbell's mislabeled it. Maybe they put the wrong label on this can accidentally. But you have a reason to believe it's Campbell's soup, tomato, because you've been buying it for many years, and Campbell's has been right every other time. So you can't see the tomato soup, but you have a reason to believe, because you've built up a trust over years with the Campbell's company, that if it says tomato soup, it's tomato soup. If it says chicken noodle, it's chicken noodle. Faith, you can't see it, but you have a reason to believe in it. Faith is the thing that carries us through our daily life. And Jesus in today's gospel tells us that faith, even the size of a little bitty, the smallest of all seeds, can move mountains. Now, why is a seed so powerful? Because there's life in a seed. There's life in a seed. That little mustard seed, there's life in it. When you plant it into the ground, it dies to itself, but then the new life springs up. Our faith has to be a living faith. We have to have that life within us, that trust in God that allows us to grow on a daily basis in our relationship with God. This is how we grow in our faith. Faith does not mean that we get our will done, that we get what we want. What faith truly means is that we allow God's will to be done in us and through us. That's what faith is all about. And coming to a point in our life where even through the toughest of times, this COVID, this pandemic, we can trust it, because, again, we don't avoid the tough times, but if we're people of faith, we have God with us throughout these tough times. Now, my good friend Simon Peter, he had a little talk with Jesus, and Jesus brought up faith the size of a mustard seed. So let's hear from Simon Peter in his own words.
I believe with all my heart that Jesus spoke in parables, mainly for me. Do you know parables? Stories? Yes, well, I believe that he told stories mainly to help me to understand. And may I confess something to you? Most of the time, I didn't understand the parable. Do you have that problem? Yes? Here's what I did. I will tell you. I would go to him and I would say, Jesus, yes, wonderful story. I said, may I speak with you privately? I always wanted to go privately because I didn't want the others to know I didn't know. And we would go around someplace where we could be private, and I would say, now, explain this to me. Faith the size of a mustard seed could move mountains. Explain that to me. And do you know, each and every time he would take whatever time was necessary to explain it. And then when he finished, I'd say, oh, yes, of course, I understand. Yes, small faith, big mountain move. Yes, I understand. And I'd walk away, and half the time I didn't even understand his answer. but I didn't let him know that.
Well, there you have it from Peter. Yeah, big mountain move. That's what it all meant to him. But when we have faith the size of a mustard seed, we really, truly know and trust that all things are possible with God. There was a man named Bobby Fischer, a great chess player. He's the first American to ever beat the Russians in chess. And one day there was a movie opening. Back in the old days, they used to have great premieres for movies, and it would be a big Hollywood extravaganza. And Bobby Fischer was invited to the premiere of a movie called The Seventh Seal with an actor, Swedish actor, Max von Sydow. And the whole movie is about this warrior, this soldier in many centuries ago who's going to die, but he gets into a battle with death. Death comes to take him, but he talks to death and he says, is there any way I can get out of you taking me? And they get into a chess match. So the whole movie is about this chess match between Max von Sydow, the soldier, and death. And so each scene, they're in a different place, a different battle, but they continue their chess game. And it gets to the end, and the death makes a move, and the curtain comes down and everything goes black. And the chess expert, they say he stood up in the movie theater, says, it can't be over yet. It can't be over yet. Aren't any of you watching and looking at that chessboard? The king has one more move. So I want to suggest to you in your own life, as people of faith, know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what's happening, The King has one more move. You see, that's what faith gives us, that sense of trust that no matter what, God is there, God is the King, and God always has in our life one more move. This is Mark Price. Thanks for listening.